My name is Zakir. I'm a filmmaker with a dream that the world says is too late. But logic doesn't write history, obsession does. This isn't a vlog, this is an audition. This is Becoming KRYZAE.
When pitching to a giant like HYBE, you can't just have a cool name. A name is a label. What you need is a linguistic foundation. KRYZAE isn't a word that I found in a book. It's a word I built. It combines raw human emotion and divine permanence. Let's actually break down that word and what it means. Cry is the kinetic. It represents cry of the soul, the raw, unpolished vulnerability that makes K-pop so resonant. But it's also kinetic energy, the physics of ambition that drives a group to move as one. Then there's A. This is the anchor, the eternal. It's the promise that even though we are mortal, the stories we tell will outlast us. It is the group's iron. I think what makes this group unique is that they aren't just idols in the traditional sense. KRYZAE is a group with multiple disciplines and ideologies. They are directors, they are actors, they are writers, and they don't just inhabit the myth. Their whole story is the myth. You know, it's a copyright that we own, and the idea is that this is a bloodline, not a brand. The number 5 is sacred in KRYZAE. It's the number of balance. Each member's name is a 5-letter vessel for their powers. You get the leader, Cryon. He is the ignition. I looked at the science of the photons and the electrons, that the smallest units of power. The leader doesn't have to be the loudest. He just has to be the spark that activates the other 4. When Cryon moves, the engine starts. Then you get the rapper, Crybex. I wanted the rapper to feel like the tide. You know, that moment at the beach where the water pulls back right before a huge wave hits? That's Vex. It's a controlled violence. He doesn't rap at you, he pulls you into his current. Then there's our vocalist, Cryel. This name is photonic. Cry plus Ariel, it's about the moon. The moon doesn't create its own light, it reflects the sun. Cryel is the emotional mirror of the group. In a world of noise, his voice is the silence between the notes. Next we have our ace, our all-rounder, Cryen. He is the iron, the electrical strike. In a group you need someone who can change the energy of a room in 1 second. Sharp choreography, high speed rap, explosive high notes. He is the lightning bolt that splits the sky. And then finally, we have Cryeth, the cryptic myth. He is the heartbeat. I imagine him performing in a mosque, not to hide, but to protect the truth, until the climax of the dance. He is the grounding force that keeps the divine human. What if I told you that I want you, but I see your heart is pure? Okay, so let me tell you guys about designing the logo. Okay. The KRYZAE logo. So, yeah, yes, it's a crown, but take a look closer. The crown is three-pronged. There's a reason behind that. Firstly, technically, a three-pronged crown is incomplete. Yeah, let me show you one of my crown props that I have here. See, a crown is never three-pronged. It's usually when it's in front, it has more than three. It has three. Usually if you look at head on, like someone would, usually you would see three prongs in front, right? But you also have these small miniature prongs. So a three-prong crown is technically incomplete. The reason I decided to go with an incomplete crown was to show that, you know, the idea of fallen royalty. So if you take a look closer, there's also tons and tons of cracks on the crown, and that's to show that this symbol of mortality is cracking through, you know, letting the divine show through. I'm sure you guys have seen in the colored version of it that, you know, the cracks are golden, the crown is shattering, and, you know, just the normal looks of it. So that was the crown. Then if we take a look at the aesthetic behind their clothing, their dynamic, their styling, or things like that, the idea behind it is, you know, think ancient future. The idea of like silk fabrics mixed with tactical gear. The idea is that KRYZAE isn't just pretty boys, but they are warrior soldiers of a forgotten myth. You know, every stitch in the costume, every line in the logo, each piece of it has a story behind it, and it's part of the lore that makes up KRYZAE. Then there is our sound. Our sound is a conversation between our inspirations, you know. It's from Quartus we take the autonomy, the in-house production style when, you know, the members have their hands on the faders, they're making the music. And then from HYBE we take the dark pop cinematic energy. From BTS we take the permission to be soloists within a group, you know, having our own individuality blend together to form the dynamic of the group. And, you know, from TXT we take the whimsy, the feeling that is magical and real, you know. And I played a bit for you guys, but just take a listen to this. You know, it's grounded in the energy of the club, you know, it's music with a myth to it, you know. You know, the simple things, but I feel like I'm sharing too much with you guys. So why don't you guys take a small look into the lore of KRYZAE.
The gods who fell. That is the arc of season 1. We are presenting 5 divine forces that was stripped of immortality and scattered. They crashed as stars in different corners of the world. They have no memory of who they were, but they have a pulse. They have KRYZAE. It means to rise again. This isn't just a debut, it's a reunion. We are building a global fan base that acts as the higher gods watching this myth unfold. And the first arc? Well, it's simple. A myth begins.